If you're a franchisee or you're working with a franchisee and you're running Google Ads or setting up Google Ads, please watch this video because I want to make sure you do not get suspended by Google. And I can tell you it's a lot more likely to happen to you than you may think. Hey, this is John from Stub Group. We're the #1 resource in the world for fixing Google Ads suspensions and policy violations. And the reason I know so much about franchisees and getting suspended is because we've had a number of franchisees hire us to help them get unsuspended, both franchisees as well as franchisors, so both sides of the equation. And this includes some names that you would definitely recognize, some really significant brands that have run afoul of Google and their policies for whatever reason, and often it's because of the unique way that you might set up Google Ads accounts and use different domains and different things for franchisees, and a lot of those things are suspicious and weird to Google. They don't understand why things operate the way they do, even though you'd think they would because it's not a new business model, but Google is what they are. And so I'm going to walk you through some pitfalls to avoid and just some best practices about how to most strategically set things up for success. So first of all, the way that you're going to set things up, set up your Google Ads accounts, is going to be dependent upon who is paying the ad spend to Google. And a common question people ask is, should I advertise all of my franchisees in one Google Ads account, or should I use a separate Google Ads account for each franchisee? So first of all, again, it comes down to who's paying for the ad spend. So if your individual franchisees are paying the ad spend directly to Google, then you're going to need to use separate Google Ads accounts because you can only have one payment method or one payee per Google Ads account. And so it's not going to work to have 10 different franchisee credit cards in the same account trying to pay for different campaigns. It doesn't work that way. So you're going to, by default, need to have a separate ad account per franchisee if they're paying the ad spend to Google. Now, if you're going to do that, that means you're going to have separate payment methods because each franchisee is using their own payment method. And that's a good thing because here's pitfall #1 that I see franchisees stumble into, which is that they're paying for the ad spend for their franchisees. Let's say a franchisor or maybe the digital advertising agency, something like that. They have multiple accounts and they're paying for the ad spend across multiple accounts, and they're using, let's say, the same credit card or credit card with the same billing address across multiple accounts. That often results in a suspicious payments suspension from Google because they get confused as to why is the same card or a card from the same place being used across multiple accounts. That looks shady to them. Often you'll get that red flag of death. Now, not always. Google's not consistent. You might say, oh, I'm doing this and I've got no problems, and cool. There's plenty of people who do it without problems, but there's also plenty of people who have problems at some point. I know because they hire Stub Group to fix these problems. So I strongly recommend that you don't use the same credit card or even different credit cards from the same billing address to pay for ad spend across multiple Google Ads accounts. That's danger territory. Instead, if you as an agency or you as a franchisor are going to pay ad spend to Google on behalf of the different franchisee locations, I recommend that you get a line of credit with Google, get set up for monthly invoicing. The reason for that is because Google understands that. They expect to see multiple ad accounts tied to the same line of credit. Also, they've done checks on you and confirmed that you're a legit business and that you can pay them. And so your likelihood of having any kind of suspicious payment issue goes way, way down. Now, not everybody can get a line of credit. There's some different eligibility requirements that you need. And I have a separate video you can watch about how to get a line of credit with Google Ads. Alternatively, you could go to an agency like Stub Group that already has an established line of credit and leverage that relationship to give you a head start. So again, if you're going to use multiple ad accounts and they're not being paid by the franchisees across different payment methods, then I strongly recommend a line of credit. So separate from who's paying, you've got the idea of websites. Are you using a single website, let's say example.com, and then example.com/Indiana for your Indiana franchisee, example.com/Houston for your Houston franchisee, etc.? Are they all in the same domain? Or is it different domains? Is it HoustonExample.com? Is it IndianaExample.com? That's going to play a role in how Google looks at things and whether or not you should use separate accounts. Here's what I mean. So first of all, if you use separate domains, there is a risk that Google is going to think that HoustonExample.com is pretending to be example.com, is pretending to be the franchisor, because often the franchisee is using the same logo, the same business name information and whatnot. And Google says, oh wait, example.com already exists. We see this new domain pop up. They're using their brand name, their logo. That looks suspicious. We think they're copying the existing brand. So we're going to suspend the new website or the ad account associated with the new website. And usually when that happens, it gets flagged for unacceptable business practices. That's the most common suspension type. Sometimes circumventing systems as well, but usually UBP, unacceptable business practices. So when that happens, and we've seen that happen many times, there are ways to fix that. We've fixed it a number of times. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work and explaining things, changing things in the website, working through things with Google, but it's doable. We've helped a lot of people come back from that. But it's something to keep in mind as a risk if you are taking that approach of having a separate domain per each franchisee. Now, if you had the same domain and your franchisees just have pages on that same domain, that's not as much of a problem because it's all within one domain. And then you had the question of, should you use multiple ad accounts or a single ad account? So there's pros and cons. When you use a single ad account, if anything goes wrong in that ad account, the entire ad account goes down. So if you have 100 franchisees and you have a problem with the ads you're running for one of those franchisees and your ads account gets suspended, all 100 are down, which could be really, really bad. So from a risk perspective, there's a lot of risk in keeping everything in one account. At the same time, when you have multiple ad accounts sending traffic to the same domain, sometimes that can look a little bit confusing or suspicious to Google. Now, usually not so much. They are used to seeing multiple accounts sending traffic to the same domain, so I'd say there's less risk there than in having all of your eggs in one basket. But there's still different kind of mitigation techniques and things that we use to try and make sure that everything looks correct to Google and that you're not running into problems. You've got those things that are key. Who is paying for it? And then risk mitigation, are you using one domain or multiple domains? If you are going to use multiple domains, kind of that Houston example, Indiana example, etc., then I definitely recommend using different accounts, one account per domain. Because again, if you have an issue with one domain, let's say HoustonExample.com, let's say that site gets hacked. If Google sees that, they're going to suspend the ad account associated with that domain. And again, if you have all 100 of your franchisees using the same ad account, even if you're using different domains, that ad account is going to go down because of that one website problem. And so suddenly your entire business can advertise on Google Ads, and now your franchisees can because of the problem with one franchisee. And that kind of stuff happens all the time. So I definitely recommend one Google Ads account per domain for situations like that. I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions about this, leave a comment on the video or reach out through studgroup.com, and we'd love to help you make sure that you are set up for success in the Google Ad space for franchisees. Also, tap that subscribe button so you can get more content like this. And until next time, signing off.